Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tearing down a massive Australian retirement milestone, the magic $1 million. For so many of us, it's the absolute holy grail. But here's the catch. Most people chasing that specific number have no idea what it actually buys them. So let's break down exactly how far $1 million really goes. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the mechanics of $1 million, the age factor, the expense trap and benchmarks, some strategic interventions, and finally, redefining your retirement vision. All right, Section 1, the mechanics of $1 million. Let's look at the levers we can pull. $1 million. It's a massive anchoring number, isn't it? But right off the bat, I want to clear something up. The financial principles we're about to dive into, they apply exactly the same whether you've got $1 million, 700 grand, or even 500 grand. The math scales, but the underlying mechanics of how you actually generate income in retirement stay exactly the same. So let's talk about the three specific levers that work together to build your income strategy. First up, your superannuation doesn't just sit there gathering dust once you retire. It keeps working for you. If we assume returns of around 6% per year before inflation, $1 million balance could generate roughly $60,000 in earnings alone. That's just the earnings. Second, you top that up with strategic capital withdrawals, slowly drawing down the balance to cover the gap between what your investments earn and what you actually spend. And third, the age pension. Once you hit 67, you might qualify. Now, you might not get it right away with $1 million, but as your balance naturally depletes over time, a part pension can kick in. And that means you withdraw less from your own super every year. Moving right along to Section 2, the age factor. Because when it comes to your money, timing is quite literally everything. Let's look at the actual math laid out here. Assuming you own your home, you're getting that 6% average return, and you need these funds to stretch all the way to age 95, just look at how your sustainable annual income jumps based entirely on when you clock out for good. If you retire at 55 as a single, you can safely draw about $55,000 a year. For a couple, that's $66,000. But check this out. If you wait just 5 years until age 60, boom, that jumps to $60,000 for singles and $77,000 for couples. Push it to 65, you're looking at 65 grand for singles and about 83 grand for couples. Waiting a bit longer to retire dramatically boosts the cash you can safely spend every single year. Let's unpack those ages a bit more, starting with 55. Retiring at 55 with $1 million is absolutely doable, but there is a massive hurdle you have to clear first. You can't touch your super for another 5 years, right? So you've got to have cash savings or investment income or some other assets to bridge that gap until your super finally unlocks at 60. The trick here is having an ironclad plan for those first 5 years. You definitely don't want to be lying awake at night sweating over the electricity bill while $1 million sits locked in a vault you can't even open. Now contrast that with retiring at 65. Waiting until 65 really stacks the deck in your favor for two huge reasons. For starters, you only have to fund yourself for 2 years before the age pension kicks in at 67. So that's way less time where you're relying strictly on your own super withdrawals. Second, because your retirement savings don't have to stretch over as many decades, remember, we're planning all the way to age 95, you can afford to pull out more cash each year without stressing as much about the well running dry later on. Okay, Section 3, the expense trap and benchmarks. Time to figure out what things actually cost. Take a look at this quote from retirement planning expert Chris Dano at Toro Wealth. He notes that clients come in all the time and say, I want to hit $1 million before I retire. It just feels safe. But then he asks them what their retirement will actually cost per year, and nothing. They have no idea. And you guys, this is the trap. Chasing this big, shiny, round number without mapping out your actual living expenses, you could end up working years longer than you actually need to. Seriously, you might be able to kick back and retire completely comfortably with, say, 700 grand and stop working 4 years earlier. But you're never going to know until you sit down and map out your essentials, your fun money, and those big one-off expenses. Now, if mapping out your exact expenses feels like you're just throwing darts at a board, you're in luck. We can swap the guesswork for some concrete data using the ASFA retirement standard. ASFA tracks the real-world cost of retirement at 2 levels. The modest standard, which just covers the basics, sits at about $35,000 a year for singles and $50,000 for couples. But the comfortable standard, this is the one that gets you regular travel, private health insurance, and the freedom to go out to eat without stress. That one is around $53,000 for singles and $75,000 for couples. Oh, and keep in mind, these figures assume you own your home outright. So let's connect the dots here.
How does a $1 million portfolio stack up against that comfortable benchmark? Surprisingly well, actually. Even if you tap out at age 55, your generated income sits above that comfortable standard. But if you wait until 60 or 65, your income well and truly smashes the ASFA comfortable benchmark for homeowners. For most Australians, $1 million is an incredibly strong foundation that is more than enough to live a really great life.
Which brings us to Section 4, Strategic Interventions. Let's talk about boosting those balances. If you're looking at your numbers and thinking you need a boost, there are some powerful, actionable levers you can pull right now. First up, think about working just an extra 12 to 24 months. I know, but the compound effect is mind-blowing. Your super keeps growing, you keep contributing, and you simultaneously shrink the number of years your savings have to last. It is a massive win. Second, maximize your super contributions using catch-up or bring-forward rules. Third, and honestly, this is a total game changer, consider downsizing your home. Once you hit 55, you can dump up to $300,000 per person from the sale of a home straight into your super, totally outside the normal contribution caps. For a couple, that is a $600,000 injection. It literally transforms your retirement overnight. And finally, if you run a small business, absolutely look into those capital gains tax exemptions. All right, finally, Section 5, redefining your retirement vision. What happens when you actually have a surplus? Having more money than you need is a fantastic problem to have, and it opens up some ridiculously exciting options. You could upgrade your lifestyle, take those big overseas trips, finally fly at the front of the plane, or spend on a personal trainer to keep you in peak physical shape. Or hey, you could bring forward your retirement date and buy back years of your life. You could also choose to front-load your spending. Your 60s and early 70s are usually your most active years, right? So spending a bit more to really enjoy that time often makes way more sense than hoarding a massive balance for your 80s. Or you could use that surplus to help out the family, chip in for the grandkids' schooling or a house deposit while you're actually around to see the impact. So it all circles back to this one fundamental question. What does retirement actually look like for you? Is it finally having the time for the hobbies that work always got in the way of? Is it total financial security or just the freedom to make choices without checking your banking app first? Hitting that $1 million mark puts you in a position of incredible strength. But the biggest takeaway from this explainer today is this. You have to align your financial strategy with your actual life goals. Please don't just blindly chase around a number. Map out your expenses, understand the mechanics, and build a personalized plan for the retirement you actually want to live. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today to unpack all of this, and I really hope it's given you a totally fresh perspective on your financial future.